what are you going to do about it, huh? What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? If you're always on YouTube, oh, by the way, welcome back to California, West Africa. How's everyone doing today? So I keep having this repeating mantra. I don't know if it's a mantra, but I just have this thing repeating in my head. Sometimes, maybe I'm crazy. Every day I wake up, for some reason, I just mutter to myself or think to myself, what are you going to do about it? This is the reason why I stopped watching news. I have friends on YouTube and WhatsApp. Shout out to Jim. Jim has a YouTube channel. That's how I met him. And I'm always thinking, because he's reduced his consumption of YouTube, I think. And sometimes he has to remind me of current events that are happening in America. Because I live in, like I said something the other day in one of my videos. I said, I'm in a bubble. Like I'm in my little African bubble. Like I'm not paying attention to the Iran war. I'm not paying attention to the Ukraine war. I assume the Ukraine war is still going on. I assume we're still at war with Iran. Sometimes I'll even just get my news from thumbnails as I'm scrolling through, and I never doom scroll, but sometimes I scroll through my feed, and if I go down too far, I'll catch a glimpse of a destroyer or some military news, what's happening, and I'll see a clip of I have trouble remembering his name, Donald Trump. That's how far removed I am from the news feeds. Like I have to scroll all the way down the bottom in order to so I get my news from thumbnails. Isn't that crazy? So I definitely am in a bubble. But before I was in that bubble, I just kept thinking, what is the point of looking at news? It used to be you flip on the news way back in the 70s and 80s, and you would get. I remember as a kid just watching local news. Who was being arrested, or what something that happened, or an accident, or a flood. I live in Sacramento, so it floods every couple of years in the lower lands because in California there's this thing where they build all the housing projects and neighborhoods and cities all in the marshlands, and then in the hilly areas are barren. Nobody lives up there. Well, they do, but some. But for the most part, they're building these neighborhoods and cities in lowland marshes. So, of course, they flood. Now they have the Sacramento River, the American River, and they have these big levees. But the levees break, and if it rains too much, it's like living in a bowl. It floods. I remember many times I couldn't even get to my mom's house. I lived in Sacramento. My mom lived in Galt. G-A-L-T. Galt is a flower, by the way, not a disease. I always thought it was a disease. Galt is a very beautiful flower that grows in California. Anyway. Yes, ma'am. Hey, come over here. Let me see how pretty you are. Come here. Come here, Bella. Oh, nice. You got your hair done. It looks very nice. Say bonjour. You look very nice. I like your hair. Oh, the Nunu does a much better job on your hair than Daddy does. So, anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. So, many days I'm like, what are you going to do about it? I'm asking myself, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So, if there's nothing I can do about it, if there's nothing I can do to help the people in Haiti or help the people that were in the flooded areas, and or even just watching the weather. Like, I don't even watch the weather here. Now, of course, the weather, every day I wake up here in Cote d'Ivoire, I get the little weather feed. Every single day it says, dangerous exposure to UV rays, because it's always sunny, we're in a tropical environment. So, of course, we're getting bombarded with extra UV rays. And so you want to stay out of the sun. So we try to limit our sun exposure. And that's what so if every day is a warning, so then what's the warning? Of course, yeah, so when Bella goes out, I put a hat on her. Now she's half African, so she has natural melanin in her skin that's going to protect her much better than protects me. Now I'm a darker skin white. I don't know what I'm mixed with. I think well, my grandfather was, I think, and if in my family's watching, I think my grandfather was 3/4 Cherokee. I mean, he looks like an Indian. So I definitely have some skin that will brown when I get out and exposed, but I still can get sunburned, but it's usually not too bad. So anyway, so I wake up every morning. I think, what are you gonna do about it? So one of the things that sticks with me is that what are the ills on a society level that I can have some influence on? Because I try to think critically, and I think about what my circle of influence is. And when I say circle of influence, I mean friends or family or my immediate family. What kind of influence can I put out? So if we're having declining birth rates in the West, and there's some very complicated things going on with society right now. We're losing our family cohesion. We've lost family values. I never used to think about this stuff before. It's crazy that now, and as I've gotten older, I've gotten more conservative in my beliefs. And I try to ground my beliefs in facts and what the truth is. And it's really difficult because we get told all the time. Even now, I just watched a video on YouTube where there was this woman CEO. I think she's of Google or someplace, and they were saying that putting the truth when these news agencies are seeking the truth, they're saying that maybe seeking the truth is a distraction. Maybe we should be focused more on getting along.
But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things.
What a feminine mindset that doesn't work for society. It doesn't work to go out and coddle people's feelings over facts. That is now listen, I'm not a right-wing guy, I'm not a left-wing person, even though I grew up sort of liberal, grew up on welfare, raised by a single mom. Many of my beliefs did come from the female mindset. Like I have some feminine qualities. It took a lot of work for me to cull those feminine traits and develop a more masculine frame. And that's not easy when you grow up in a feminist society. Everyone thinks that we live in this patriarchy. That is so farthest from the truth. If we lived and look, everyone talks about this stuff, so I'm not going to sit here and argue or debate that right now. From everything I've gathered and everything I see, from information outside, information my experience, I try to weigh all those together. I don't think that just because it's raining here, that means it's raining everywhere. I know that there are pockets of rain. I know that if it floods in my area, that the whole world didn't flood. Like, you know what I mean? So I just every day I try to think, what are you gonna do about it? So what I did is, first of all, I'm trying to have children, multiple. I would think from my income, probably what I can afford comfortably, or at least struggle by and get away with, is probably 2 or 3. Because I live in country Cote d'Ivoire. In America, I couldn't do that. I'd have to be on public assistance or something like that. So, and I'm already a disabled vet, so I get my veterans CMP every month. So I'm essentially retired. So what can I do to contribute to society? Well, I could raise children in a 2-parent household, and I could give my children everything they need to be successful in this world. Now, whether like for instance, like, so one of the things I think small. I think on a level of, it's very small. All right, so I think about peanut allergies. I think about people who are allergic to cats and dogs. These are things that I didn't live, obviously, 100 years ago. I don't know what people had allergies back then. But I grew up in a household we had cats and dogs, and we were exposed to animals, and I ran barefoot. I remember even as a kid, I ran barefoot so much in Florida. I was living in Florida as a kid for a short term. Even though I'm from California, but we moved around to a few states for about 5 years and then returned to California. I'm still in California, born and raised. But when I was living in Florida, on at least one occasion, I remember worms. I had worms. Like when I went to the bathroom, number 2, worms were coming. I had these long worms were in my poop. And, you know, my mother should have put shoes on us. I remember I stepped on a wire brush. My mom didn't supervise us as a kid. Which I'm a Gen X. You. I'm a Gen X. I drank out of the hose. I ran barefoot. I learned how to ride a 10-speed bicycle at 5 years old. An adult 10-speed bicycle. And I had to get on one wheel or one pedal, then take my foot off to the side and jump on the other pedal. And I did that in sand. Beach sand. Because that's what the roads were in there. I'm not even exaggerating. I think about that. How in the hell? I ride a bike pretty good. You know, like I learned the hard way. In sand. Rode a 10-speed in sand with little skinny tires. We had armadillos running around. We had armadillo holes in our yard. We lived next to an orange grove. So I've never had any allergies. Peanuts. I eat peanut butter. Never had any of those things. So when I had Bella, I told Michelle, I said, we're gonna make sure that we have dogs and cats, and she's gonna be exposed to it. She could eat a peanut right now and be fine. And she runs around here in Africa. There's lizards and lizards poop. She runs around in the grass barefoot. We keep all our dogs dewormed, of course. Try to keep shoes on her. And but Michelle grew up, and also I wanted to make sure that Bella was breastfed. Not everyone can breastfeed. There's other kinds of issues that go along with that. No, Michelle had to have a C-section in order to have Bella. But she produced milk normally, and Bella has been breastfed for almost 2 years now. We're weaning her right now. So I know that Bella has been healthy, and she's been exposed. She's obviously through breast milk, she's going to inherit Michelle's immune system. And Michelle rarely gets sick. Like, she's pretty healthy growing up here in Africa. I do. So I just thought on this one. So it was one of those things. What are you going to do about it? Well, I don't want my kid to have an allergy. Like you know what? Because one time I went to the airport and I had to take some stuff out of my checked baggage because it was too heavy, and so I put it in my carry-on. And one of those things was a small jar of peanut butter. And I went through the TSA, and they took my peanut butter. I wasn't even allowed to carry an unopened jar of peanut butter onto the plane. So what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to make sure that my kid, because they do that with allergies, right? We always have to, placate or, for the weakest people in society. There should be nobody allergic to peanuts. As much peanuts that we use, I'm like one of those comedians that says, yeah, if a peanut kills you, you're not made for this earth. If you can't be around a cat, you're not made for this earth. If you have some type of allergy to a common thing and then nobody can have those things, you're not helping society. They do real, I think those people should, it sounds crazy, so I wouldn't say it, but you know what I'm thinking. You know what I think I think if pet dander or a peanut can kill you, yeah, you just move on. You don't belong on this earth. Same thing if you yourself. I am certainly empathetic towards things that cause people to do those things, and I've been on that verge of those things. But when it came down to it, couldn't do it. And I had things happen to me in life that, if you look on the scale of stressors, they're like in the top 5, and they were all happening to me at one time. And so I didn't do it. And if you could lose your money or lose your kids or get divorced, and then, or you can't get a job, or you can't get women, and then so you just decide to self-delete, well, then you just weren't made for this earth. I'm not saying that we shouldn't help men, because listen, I think we should help people. The issue is there's no help for men. So anyway, what are you going to do about it? So we have a declining birth rate and we have peanut allergies. What are you going to do about it? Okay, well, I'm going to change that. A lot of people have said that, I'm going to try to raise a child into a functioning adult. Now, what that means in this modern world is, I don't know, but I guess I'll just have to roll with the punches and see how things go, we don't live in this, society's changing with AI and all these things. I don't know what the world's going to be like in 5 or 10 years. I have an idea, but I don't know for sure. So right now, my focus is on my family. Every day, trying to keep Bella engaged, to develop her mind. And the woman that I chose, because I don't want to, because my first wife was an idiot. She's pretty dumb. Objectively dumb. And so this time, when I got with Michelle, she's educated, she's African. I know that there's a lower overall IQ here in Africa, but that doesn't mean that everybody's low IQ. So I looked at the mitigating circumstances that would be indicative of what Michelle's intelligence is, because obviously I think I'm a little bit above average intelligence, or at least average. So I think I'm okay there. And I think Michelle, she went to college. She went to school her whole life, then, went to college. She went to college in the Russian-speaking country of Ukraine. She knows 4 languages, 1 half fluently, so 4.5 languages. She speaks English good enough to where we can talk. Maybe not deep conversations, but she speaks enough English. So she has 4 languages. She was able to learn Russian while she was going to veterinarian school and got her doctorate. I'm not saying that as look at Michelle's so intelligent, but I think that's indicative of someone who has a higher than average IQ. So I think Bella's going to be okay between the two of us. And she's going to and Bella's going to grow up with multiple languages, and I think that's going to also help her developmentally. So that's what I'm trying to do about it. So I'm just doing something about that I have power and influence over. If you don't have any power or influence on the things that are going on in the world, then don't worry about it. Don't put that out of your mind. Focus on what you can do. And anyway, I'm going to say, just last thing I want to say is, I think people, we got to get away from this just giving blanket advice. I know we're pretty good about pointing out problems, and I think problems should be pointed out on YouTube channels. I'm never going to be a YouTuber. I'm never going to get a desk and a microphone and then try to give blanket advice to people. It doesn't work. It's a waste of time. Maybe you can make a living off of it and you make money from it, and people will come to you and watch you every day if you're entertaining. I don't have that talent. So I'm going to continue to use YouTube as a free cloud for my home videos. I enjoy the few viewers that I have that come and check on me every day. I consider you guys, acquaintances that are friendly acquaintances, and I appreciate that. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. See you on the next one.